Hey everybody, my name is Wyatt and I'm Ferda Tunes. I know I need a haircut, get that out of the way, don't talk about it. I am so unbelievably excited to do this video. The absolute powerhouse in electronic and dance music, Daft Punk, announced their official split just last week and I was sort of crushed. I've loved their music for literally as long as I can remember. I have countless stories and experiences that I could talk about with their music and just more than enough praise for these legends, but literally this intro would be 20 solid minutes. So I decided to just keep it short and save my praise for the music later because obviously we are ranking all of the albums from the infamous French duo Daft Punk. The myths, the legends, the electronic, dance, house, music moguls. Daft Punk, all studio albums, no remix albums, no compilation albums, and no live albums, even though their live albums are, holy god, they're stellar and they must be heard. Do not sleep on those. I just don't really see where I would work them in since they don't have much original material on them. You get me? That makes sense, right? Okay, let's dive into it. Picking Daft Punk to do the Tron soundtrack was one of the most unexpected and genius things that Disney could have done with the film. Especially considering Daft Punk had never really done something like this, especially on this scale with such a big name attached to it. And this being a film soundtrack and running like a film soundtrack is the only reason it made it at the bottom of this list and stands as their worst. Something had to go at the bottom, right? But Daft Punk just seamlessly knocked it out of the park. And again, it feels like a film score, and you know, sitting with this album as a Daft Punk fan, it's not hard to see that they slipped in their core sound into quite a bit of these large orchestral arrangements, and those spots on the album are definitely some of the sweetest, as a fan. But the soundtrack as a whole is pretty fucking fantastic. This thing is spacey, dramatic, intense, obviously very cinematic, but they do a great job at just making it all feel like it's set in a different simulation. I don't know if it's one of the best soundtracks of all time, but it's definitely noteworthy to say the very least. And Daft Punk's core studio albums are just too iconic for me to place this masterpiece above any of them. As great as it is, their studio albums are just about as tight as any discography can get. So let's get into that. Human After All. They made this album in a much shorter time span than their previous and used a lot less instruments than their previous to bring a more minimal feel to it all, but still a very abrasive approach to all the themes in the music. And the end result is definitely different from all their other work, especially at the time. And it's fairly easy to see why the public wasn't crazy about this album and why it didn't do nearly as well as their last two. But fuck! This album is special, man, and coming back to it in the midst of all this news, I was just blown away all over again. There's a lot more emphasis on kind of harsh electronics, and the whole Daft Punk sound as a whole that we know and love is kind of warped into this deeper, heavier, almost industrial feel at times. The whole album feels very technology influenced, if that makes any sense. It really feels like an album made by robots. This album could be argued that it's their most Daft Punk record, where they just dive deepest into their core sound that's most unique to them. Like, forget all the boundary pushing and forward-thinking EDM on Discovery. This is just full-blown robot dance rock music. Even their classic vocoder vocals are a lot more warped and echoey and kind of distorted. They're a lot more in your face and high in the mix. Speaking of robot rock, that song is, oh my god, this is banger rock dance odyssey that I just can never stop banging my head to. It's as much of an electronic song as it is a fucking hard rock song. And as weird as that sounds, it comes together a lot more naturally than you may think. Just a banger and a half. And I have to mention Technologic too. It's easily one of their catchiest songs in their whole discography for me. This album is not all just front to back harsh in-your-face electronics though. The song Make Love acts as a bit of a breather in the middle, almost an interlude, but it is fairly long. But it's honestly one of their most serene and beautiful songs in their entire catalog. The last song, Emotion, is pretty great for the same reasons, but I do think it just drags definitely a bit too long, and it just doesn't really go anywhere that impressive or that mind-blowing. But it's still a more than solid closer, and overall I think this album is pretty underrated. As a Daft Punk album, it's more than fine, and it's still great, being their worst studio album. But as a standalone electronic album in the grand scheme of things, and especially at this time, this motherfucker bangs! And if you enjoy this niche sound as much as I do, this album remains just a very special and unique oddity in the band's discography. So we're only 2 down with 3 more albums to go, and the next few albums, I just have to say they're some of the best albums ever made.
The hardest choices require the strongest wills.
Don't kill me, please. You have no idea how hard it was to put their debut album this low on the list. Their legendary classic debut classic album, Homework, it remains one of the greatest electronic and dance and house music albums ever created. And it will be that way till the end of time. I don't care. Some people argue this album has aged a bit, and I definitely see it, but I think it's one of those albums that you have to cherish the time it came out. The forward-thinking techno and house music on this album was creative, boundary-pushing, influential, and essential to the future of electronic dance music. Every corner of every song is packed with these detailed grooves, and every sound precisely blending with another layer in unspeakable ways, and it all just hits the ear in such an urgent, engaging, and fun way. It's infectious dance music at its core, but there's so much going on genre-wise, and especially in terms of their sampling abilities. They bring so much more flavor and detail to these tracks that when you're grooving to it, it's hard to deny it's one of the best albums ever made. Especially with hits like Daft Punk, every time I hear that little sample breakdown right before this driving, pumping kick comes in, right before that main synth line, it literally feels like God himself is fucking summoning me to the dance floor. And how can I not mention Around the World, one of their first big hits and still deserves every single little bit of praise. I remember this was one of the first songs I ever heard that I really discovered the layering. I remember just laying on my bed as a kid and just absorbing this song the first time I really sat with it and heard it, and just being amazed at all these different sounds working together to create this just vast, different vibe and this new world to me at the time. The majority of this album feels fairly timeless to me, and even the moments that haven't aged well are still so fucking sick. And especially, again, when you take in the time that it came out, what it brought to the genre, just, it's still such an impressive album to me. There's not a single dull moment on it. The next album on the list takes the edge consistency-wise, because even the moments that drag out on there's still a lot going on in terms of just layering, and you can always just kind of sit back and, at the very least, if you're not into their sound that much, you can at least be entertained by sound effects or, again, just new layers sliding in and out of the track. Whereas with Homework, if you don't love the first few minutes of a song like Rock and Roll or Rollin' and Scratchin', not too much is going to pop up later into the track that's going to make you come around to it. I love these songs, and they add so much character to the album, but they are a lot more repetitive, drawn out, and a lot harsher on the ears, which can be a good or bad thing depending completely on your tastes. I fucking love them, but it did take me a while to really come around into loving them like that. Does this mean they're kind of weaker tracks, or they bring the album down in quality? Fuck Fuck no! Every song on here is awesome and a true testament to how skilled and creative they were. Again, it pains me to put it this low on the list. I'll say it again, one of the best electronic albums ever made, period. I just think this album is a tad more niche and more appeals to Daft Punk fans, especially at this point in time, whereas the next on the list is just a bigger, brighter example of what they were truly capable of. Woo! Now, I don't think their last album is their best album, but in a way, I think they kind of reached their full potential. Now, I'm definitely not saying that the duo couldn't have gone past this or progressed even further, but this album just really feels like Daft Punk going full circle in terms of sound and legacy. This album feels like a monument of modern music, a pinnacle for artistic ambition. This tracklist almost feels like a collage of genres that all just come together into this giant celebration of music and a tribute to the duo's influences, as well as just past music. It's like they're kind of honoring the classics with this whole album, with the whole sound of this album at least, and it catapults you right into it with Give Life Back to Music, one of my favorite songs I've ever heard, period. Again, it feels like this anthem of celebration for music. It's so organic and naturally uplifting and catchy and fun and groovy funky. It's pure ear candy, and it's the slightest bit of taste. It's the only little taste that you need to just tell you that you are about to hear some of the craziest and just most organic production that your ears will ever hear. Giorgio by Moroder is the best example of the whole tribute to their influences thing. It is a 9-minute full-blown expedition into electronic and disco and even orchestral rock music. It's all just so cinematic and epic. It's an extremely ambitious and heartfelt tribute to one of the godfathers of disco and electronic music. It might be one of the coolest songs I'll ever hear. Headphones with this one on is always a pure mind blow. I have to mention Touch too, maybe my personal favorite on the album. With so many various passages and interesting transitions, it's the most beautiful moment on the album for me. And honestly, if you're going to listen to one Daft Punk song in their entire catalog, honestly, I think this should be the one. The sounds on this album range from obviously electronic, dance, house, disco, funk, IDM, pop, even moments of classical, harsh noise, and punk. Working with and perfecting all of these various sounds and eras and just different genres, blending it all together, makes this just a career-defining masterpiece for Daft Punk. And fuck it, I'm ready to say it is also one of the best albums ever made. It hasn't aged a day, and honestly, I don't know if it ever will, because every song on here just feels meticulously calculated to feel timeless, while also still paying homage to classic sounds and eras that also shouldn't be forgotten about. If you've never heard any Daft Punk album, I beg you to listen to this, because while their best album is their best, for sure in my eyes, this is just such a grand testament to modern music, and not even just music period. It's honestly, I think it's one of those albums that everybody needs to hear at least once before they die. It's like there's so many just fantastic songs and hits like Get Lucky and Lose Yourself to Dance, obviously infectious dance tracks, but there is full-on, almost soundscapey experience, like transcendental fucking songs like Touch and Giorgio by Moroder. Especially now that they've split up. If you haven't heard Daft Punk album, like, holy fuck, man. Okay. Oh, Jesus Christ! What? Where do I start? What do I say about this album? This album has and always will be one of the best albums ever made, period. Notice how I didn't say electronic or dance music, because I think personally, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, I've always thought this was the best EDM album ever made. Fitting this album into just the EDM category is criminal, because there's obviously so much going on, but I just have to say, in terms of electronic music and dance music separately, I think this is both, like, top 5 ever made in the genre, period. They really focused a lot more on versatility this time around and flexing what feels like decades worth of growth in terms of skill, sound, craftsmanship, showmanship, literally everything. I've talked about their attention to meticulous detail in their songs, but there is seriously not even close to a better example than Discovery. Obviously, the album starts with the classic One More Time. The sample chops on this song are still impressive to me to this day, and every single time I hear this song, it's just too infectious. I just can't help but dance or sing along to it. Digital Love is, bottom line, one of the best pop songs I've ever heard, period. The detailing in percussion and sampling on Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger will forever be iconic. The funk bass line and instrumentation on Something About Us will always be one of the catchiest things my ears have ever been graced with. And the sample manipulation on Face to Face is, oh my god! They were always insanely impressive with their sample work, but across this whole album, it's just a different level. It's seriously almost alien, and I would definitely say among some of the best sample work in music ever, period. And that goes for any and every genre. And hip-hop heads that love that kind of sample-heavy work from like Madlib and Alchemist, even Kanye, you cannot miss these tracks. Like songs like Face to Face, Crescendos, Superheroes, and High Life are just absolute ear candy for fans of sample-heavy music. I watched a few videos that go over Daft Punk samples and show which songs they took them from and how they flipped it, and it is genuinely one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my entire existence. I'll link some of those videos in the description, and I highly recommend you check it out to really just get a quick taste of why this album is so unbelievably genius and creative. Daft Punk's music was always fairly repetitive in nature, but this always worked towards their benefit and was almost never seen as a negative to their music, except for ignorant motherfuckers back in the day. Their whole formula, whether you like it or not, was extremely unique, and it made some of the biggest splashes and impacts in music, period. The splash they had in the late 90s and early 2000s in terms of electronic and dance music is seriously stuff of legend. And the fact they continued further and further to the point where they dropped another absolute monumental masterpiece like Random Access Memories, it's just, they have more than proven themselves as outlasting legends, cultural phenomenons, music icons. Daft Punk had a damn near flawless run in my eyes, and it spanning over 3 decades is unimaginably impressive. Although it's very sad that it's all over, at least we can be at peace in having clarity about the duo. It wasn't some, bad breakup, or, there wasn't rumors and all this shit. It was just a very clean cut, hey guys, we're kinda done. And all we can and should be doing right now to honor these iconic legends that should never be forgotten about in music is never forget about their music. Cherish the timeless albums that they gave us. They will never be forgotten about. Their influence will never stop growing. The waves they made in the music industry will be felt for decades to come. Oh my god. Oh. That's about it. Holy shit. This was surprisingly the hardest one I had to do yet, even though it's the shortest amount of albums, I'm pretty sure. But thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to let me know in the comments if you agree, disagree, what your ranking is, what you think I missed about an album, what you like about an album, anything. Just go nuts in the comments and just praise Daft Punk. I just want to have that discussion with y'all and just relish and cherish this fantastic legacy that they left behind for us to admire. You can follow me, all the links in the description, Instagram, come talk some shit with me on Twitter, subscribe if you liked. If you want to see more, I have so many more of these kind of videos, discography rankings to do for you guys this year. But keep it pushing, love you guys so much, appreciate the support wholeheartedly, much love. We'll be back with so much more content, especially next week. I got a ton of stuff planned for you guys. It's just been a lot of writing, and I gotta get into shooting and editing. That's, the biggest part. So again, much love. I love you. Ferda Tunes, Daft Punk, forever. Wow, I just completely stole Anthony Fantano's shit. I mean, that's kind of what I've been doing, but Much love. Shout out the king.
I leave you with a clip of me at the Veld Music Festival about 2 years ago when I think Marshmello mixed in One More Time on his set, and
No, this isn't happening right now, man. This isn't happening. No! Marshmello, I fucking love you!